Okay, right, we are recording. Welcome to Salesforce Xero. This is the first time we have ever done an event like this for and with the Salesforce team here at Xero. We're really excited to talk you through over the next hour and a half Salesforce in terms of the team, what it looks like here at Xero, and also the tech stack and how we use it. So yeah, let's get into it. Welcome. Let's start with some introductions. I'll go first. So my name's Alice. I am in the grad team here. My role is Graduate Experience Advisor, and what that means is I'm basically responsible for all the recruitment, selection of graduates and interns that join us here in New Zealand. And then once you're here, I try my best to make sure that you're having a really awesome experience in your first year with Xero. I've been here just over a year now, and as you can probably tell, I'm from the UK. You can probably tell by my voice, but the fun fact, I guess, about me is that I am technically a New Zealander in terms of my parents, and I was born in Germany, but I'm not German, and I only just moved here about 2 years ago, so I am all over the place. But yeah, let's go through everyone who's on the call today and get a little intro from them as well before we get into the slides. So Aparna, do you want to go next?
Sure, thanks, Alice. My name is Aparna. I work as a technical lead in the Salesforce team, but predominantly in the sales and marketing side. So I look after the Sales Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Analytics Cloud, and all sort of integration, which our team will discuss today. So other than that, I was born in India, moved to New Zealand around 12 years ago, and now I call Auckland my home. And fun fact is actually, I can talk about Salesforce and Harry Potter with exact same passion. So yeah, over to Bex.
Awesome.
Hi all, I'm Bex. I am another Kiwi transplant. I grew up in the States, rural Pennsylvania. Been here for about 16 years now. I work in the QA team at Xero, so I tell my nieces and nephews that my job is to break things because it makes my job sound a lot cooler than the 90% of reporting that I do. Fun fact about me, I don't know if it's fun or embarrassing, but I grew up in the northern US, but my dad was from the South. So the longer I've been in New Zealand, the tireder you get me, the more of my Southern accent comes out, and it can be quite horrifying. And I'll pass it on to Carrie.
Thanks, Bex. My name is Carrie. I'm the Salesforce functional lead for the sales and marketing domain. My role is primarily solution design. So essentially fixing the things after Bex breaks them. Fun fact about me, I am actually from Canada, and working with Xero was actually my opportunity for global travel. So I moved to New Zealand just a few weeks ago. So I am brand new here, and I am loving every day. I'll pass it over now to Hayden.
Thanks, Carrie. Hi, everyone. I'm Hayden, and I'm also a technical lead here. So primarily working with writing code on the Salesforce platform. Fun fact about me, this is hard. I'm pretty boring, but I used to be able to do backflips, but now I'm a dad, so I'm not sure if I can still. I'm still allowed to do them, whether my wife would let me or not. So off to Raksha now.
Thanks, Hades. Hi, everyone. I'm Raksha Miyanga. I'm the development manager in the customer platforms team, which is a Salesforce team, but with additional capabilities. I have been at Xero for 5.5 years. I was born in Fiji, and fun fact about me, I can speak at one point in time, I was able to speak 7 languages. And over to Sandy.
Thanks, Raksha. Hi, I'm Sandy. I'm a functional consultant, which is not going to mean anything right now, but I'm clicks not code. I was Welsh. I'm now Kiwi, and a fun fact: I brew my own alcohol, lots of my own alcohol. who can I pass it to? Vivek. I'll pass you to Vivek.
Thanks, Andy. I'm Vivek. I'm working as a senior developer in the Salesforce platform, mostly in the sales and marketing space. I came from India to New Zealand as a student, and eventually I got settled down here. Fun fact about me. So what I do is like I try hairstyles, haircuts on my flatmates, and I just annoy them. That's the fun fact. No one knows it.
I love all the fun facts. Great. Well, welcome everyone. So yeah, this is the team that will be talking you through Salesforce today and everything in between. So on that note, I will run you through a little bit, just a really high level agenda of what's going to be happening over the next hour or so. So I will be giving you a quick rundown of Xero, the company, what our purpose and values are, and also giving you a rundown of the graduate and intern opportunities that we have this year before handing over to the Salesforce team. And they will talk you through the tech stack, like I was saying, and what it's like to be in the Salesforce team here at Xero. We will then have hopefully a good portion of time at the end of the session to answer any questions that you have about any of the content that we're talking about today. And if there's anything we haven't brought up that you want to know about, you can ask about that too. So on that note, a little bit of housekeeping. It would be awesome if everyone could keep their mics off while people are presenting, unless of course you're the one who's presenting, just to reduce any kind of feedback. And I can see quite a few of you do have your cameras on. If you're comfortable having your camera on so that we can see your wonderful faces, that would be awesome too, but no pressure. And listen, if what we're talking about is actually really not your thing, or you have to go and do something else today and you can't stay for the whole session, no worries if you need to drop off. I will not be taking down names. I know I said I'm in charge of recruitment, but please don't worry. I won't be holding you ransom or anything. So yeah, just drop off when you need to. I'm recording this so that I can share it with everyone if you do need to catch up where you left off. And when it comes to questions, there is a chat function with Google Meet, but what would be really awesome is if you could use the Q&A function. So the way to find that is if you go up to the top of the screen in Google Meet, and there's a triangle, a square, and a circle icon. So if you click on that, and then you go down to Q&A, click through to that, and basically instead of just writing in the chat function like you normally would, you can type in your question there, and if people see your question and they also want that question to be answered, they can upvote that, and vice versa. So that way, by the end of the session, we'll know what the most burning questions are, and we can get through them together. Cool. So, a little overview of Xero. We are very fortunate that quite a lot of people, especially in New Zealand, have heard of us because we are a global leader now in terms of online accounting software. But even if you have heard of us, I'll still be giving you just a really quick whirlwind tour of who we are and what we're about. So this picture, I'm trying to get a more up-to-date picture because that iPhone is old, but as some of you may notice. But yeah, so we're an online accounting software business that basically looks to connect small businesses to their advisors and many, many other services as well. So this is a little snapshot, this screen here, of what our platform looks like essentially on different devices. But yeah, our main customer base is small, medium-sized businesses, not large businesses, just small and medium-sized. That really is our jam. And we do what we can basically to help small and medium-sized businesses in running those businesses. So taking the stress out of everything that's involved in that, whether it's real-time visibility of their financial position or cash flow or invoicing, paying their employees. If you know anyone or if you yourself have ever run a business, you probably know that there's a lot that goes into it. And so we try and minimize the amount of time it takes you to do things, makes it as seamless as possible, and hopefully gives you a bit of time back for some work-life balance at the end of your working day. So that's our kind of core aim with the product that we create. So that's a really, really super high level overview of who we are. in terms of our purpose is basically what motivates us to get out of bed, so to speak, every day. So this is to make life better for people in small business, their advisors, and communities around the world. So like I was just saying, we just basically try and give you every opportunity as a business owner to help you run that smoothly, effectively, and as stress-free as possible. So that's our purpose. And moving on to our vision, which is basically, if the purpose is why we get out of bed, the vision is really what we want our end state or end goal to be for our customers. And that's to be the most insightful and trusted small business platform. So we want to find ways basically to not just regurgitate data points or financials to the customer, but also give them ways to understand those data points, use them in a helpful way. So that's what we mean by insightful. So it gives them a way to make their own decisions off the back of that information, connect the dots themselves. In terms of being a business platform, we are now an ecosystem of around 800 different apps. So we have lots of different ways for customers to kind of tailor the way that they use the Xero app and find lots of different solutions to various different needs that they may have when running their own business. So in a simple term, we're a global platform that is seamlessly looking to connect businesses and save them time and enable their success all at the same time. Cool. So this is another pretty simple slide just to give you an idea of our growth trajectory that we've been on. This GIF at the top is me and Siobhan at the bottom there. So Siobhan is my manager and the Wellington graduate cohort from last year. So this was at the end of the year. We had a cute little ceremony called On Graduation where we celebrated them rolling off the program. So I thought you might like to see some of their lovely faces. But in terms of our journey as a business, we started off with just 4 staff back in 2006, and they were basically 4 friends. So there was one person who was a CEO, one accountant, and 2 developers who founded the business and had this goal of helping small and medium-sized businesses achieve success. So now, if we sort of fast forward through all these years, we are now actually a little bit over 3,500 members of staff. We're looking to hire close to 2,000 more members of staff in the next year to 2 years. So really huge growth happening now. And we hit the 2 million customer milestone a few months ago now. So that was a really exciting milestone for us to hit. So yeah, lots of growth still happening, if you can believe it. We've already grown loads, but there's still plenty of room for us to grow more. So it's a really exciting time to be looking to join us. And also, Kerry mentioned this, that there's travel opportunities involved in coming to work for us. Obviously, the last year it's been a little bit tricky to do that for obvious reasons, but we have office locations in all of these different cities around the world. So it is something that is a possibility in the next few years that, if you do join the grad program, once you roll off that, you have the possibility of potentially doing a secondment somewhere, but you will definitely be working with people from across all these different offices at some point in time. So yeah, and this is also going to be growing a little bit too. So very exciting times ahead. Great, so now I'm going to just give you a quick overview of the graduate opportunities that we have. So just to give you an idea of what we look for, what it's going to be like for you if you do join, and also the application process. So the grad program applications, they're currently open. They close pretty soon. So it's almost the end of April now, and we close on the 14th of May. So just over 2 weeks left to apply if you haven't already. Do get your application in sooner rather than later. And this would be to start in February 2022. So I know that seems like a long way off, but we do hire quite a few months out, and that helps us to onboard you really well and make sure you've got everything you need before you join us on day one. And talking of day one, you are a permanent employee from the get-go. I know we talk about this being a graduate program and it's 1 year on the graduate program, but you are a permanent employee from the very first day that you get here. And you're just simply in a program of learning and development basically for that first year. And for the Salesforce roles this year, they are Wellington based, so there's 2 roles available. But there is a little bit of flexibility in case someone is really desperate to stay in Auckland. That is potentially a possibility as well. If that is the case for you and you want to apply, just let us know that in your application. That may be a possibility. Oh, so what is the Salesforce graduate role? Like I said, this is the first time we've ever had it on the program. So essentially what you'll be doing is you'll be working during that year that you're on the grad program in a few different Salesforce teams, and basically taking the entire year to learn as much as you can. So be a real information sponge, and we want to make you a Salesforce developer throughout that first year. And by the end of it, you'll feel really comfortable and competent when it comes to all these different areas of the Salesforce team here in Xero. So you'll be working with a few different technologies. So I've listed a few here, like Apex, Visualforce. There are quite a few more to list there, but we just thought we would list a few of them to start off with. Some of these things are not necessarily things you'll be learning at uni right now. Please don't worry about that. I'll get onto that in just a minute when it comes to the application. But yeah, during the year, you'll have a lot of support. You'll have a dedicated buddy, and you'll also have a dedicated people lead, as well as people like me, Siobhan, and others within the grad team to turn to if you've got questions or need support for whatever reason, whether it's technical or personal. So there's heaps of support in your first year for you to basically have the best platform possible to just grow and learn as much as you can before the end of the year, when you would decide which team you would like to spend the sort of the near future with, or the foreseeable future with. Also, just quickly about the application recruitment process. Once you've applied, if you are eligible for the role, so by that I mean you need to be able to start in February 2022 and have working rights and things like that. Once I've screened you, I will send you a Hackerrank test, which is a technical test, and it's just for us to understand what your developer skills are like at this stage. And then once you've done that, you'd be sent a video interview, which is a one-way video interview. So we've pre-recorded some questions and you can answer those in your own time. It's just 4 questions and it should only take you about 12-15 minutes to do. Then if you're successful at all of those stages, we would invite you to attend what's called a grad day, which is essentially an assessment day. It's all going to be run virtually this year to enable people from all different locations to have the same opportunity to interview with us. And if you're successful there, we would then offer you the role. Now, in terms of what we're looking for in an application, I've lifted this wording from the website where it says, ideally, you'll have the following things. So GitHub profile or something similar where it shows your coding skills, the ability to take a logical approach to work, etc., etc. I wanted to put this here just to highlight to you that this is ideally you will have. This is not you have to have. So if you don't have all of these things right now, like for example, an active Trailhead Salesforce account, please do not worry too much. I would rather you apply and give it a shot than not have all of these 4 things in spades. We're looking for potential as opposed to someone who's already an expert in Salesforce, as we know that that's not something you study at university. So please don't worry too much and do apply if you're interested in this role. Cool. So I am going to hand over now to Raksha to talk about the Salesforce team and get into all of that good stuff.
Hey everyone, thanks Alice. So now it's time to introduce you to the world of Salesforce at Xero, and I've got Cody Beer and Astro here that are going to help me do this presentation today. Right, so as you can see from the pics, we are a fun-loving bunch. We make the most of what Xero parties have to offer. There are 25 Salesforce practitioners at Xero, and we've all in different roles. 11 of the team are certified Salesforce developers. We're currently based in the Wellington and Auckland offices only. And we are actually part of a wider enterprise technology team that serves Xero's and Xero's customers. We are working across 4 domains. So Carrie mentioned earlier, and so did Aparna, sales, marketing, are 2 of those. Hayden and I are from customer success systems. There's also a platform team. And in terms of teamwork, we collaborate with other capabilities such as product owners, product managers, front-end developers, QAs, BAs, integration developers, like the list goes on. So what do? The Salesforce team at Xero, we use the Salesforce platform to build solutions that scale with Xero's growth. Next slide, please, Alice. Cool. So you're probably sitting there going, what is Salesforce? So Forbes describes Salesforce as one of the world's most innovative companies. Salesforce has retained its position as the #1 CRM for several years, beating some strong contenders, as you can see, and they fall under the world's top 10 SaaS companies. At its core, Salesforce is a cloud-based customer relationship management app that stores customer and product data, but it's so much more than that. It's a platform with endless opportunities that can be extended by its clouds and app store that Carrie, I think, will fill you in about later in the session. Salesforce as a platform offers functionality to automate business processes, giving companies and their customers a unified and streamlined experience across areas like sales, marketing, and service operations, and provides insights that help the companies improve how they do business. Fun fact there, did you know that the COVID Tracer app was built on Salesforce? Well, now you know. Next slide, please, Alice. Thanks. All right, so more interesting facts about Salesforce. Salesforce was founded in 1999, and much like Xero's beginnings, Salesforce also started off in a small apartment, except that was in San Francisco, not Wellington. And in the past 22 years, they have come a very long way. So from smaller businesses to Fortune 500 companies, over 150,000 businesses are succeeding with Salesforce, making Salesforce the tech leaders in the CRM space. They're also leaders in philanthropy, top 50 companies that care, leaders in culture, so that's world's most admired, hello, leaders in innovation, changing the world list, all that, and with 21.25 billion, that's wow, huge, right? It's pretty exciting to think that Xero has been part of Salesforce's growth. We have a great partnership with Salesforce. They have helped Xero automate business processes and create beautiful experiences for our employees and our customers, contributing to Xero's purpose, as Alice mentioned earlier, which is to evolve as the needs of our customers change, and making life better for people in small business, their advisors, and communities around the world. It's honestly been an incredible journey so far, and I'm proud to say that Xero's Salesforce implementation is one of the largest and most comprehensive in New Zealand. Next slide, please, Alice. So what does this all mean? Why am I telling you all this information? So Salesforce's growth means the global economy also benefits from their success, right? Salesforce has predicted they will create 4.2 million jobs globally through to 2024, which creates a global economic impact of 1.2 trillion. That's huge. And that's a lot of jobs in just over the next 3 years, which, guess what, means a lot of demand for Salesforce developers. Yeah. So it's important to note that Salesforce skills are highly sought after. It's a fairly niche market, right? And therefore, this makes it a very lucrative career path to consider, you know, when you're thinking of starting your career. Not only that, they also have the cutest mascots like Astro and Cody Bear. There's a whole lot more if you're into that. I've got the whole gang in my bag here. But anyway, I will now hand over to Carrie, who will enlighten you further about how you can grow in the Salesforce ecosystem and contemplate starting your career as a Salesforce developer at Xero. Cheers, Carrie.
Thanks, Raksha. So I get to talk about Trailhead, and I love Trailhead. Salesforce has invested heavily in this enablement platform. Trailhead is an amazing collection of accessible resources for you to start learning Salesforce. The best way to explain this is, I'm sure as part of your curriculum, you have had to read documentation or textbooks. Now, imagine if that same information was also contained in easy-to-read how-to guides and do-it-yourself projects with a development environment that you can spin up at the click of a button. That's Trailhead. The projects that are on Trailhead, I've got a few examples on the slide there, but those projects are as vast as the Salesforce ecosystem and stretch from the mundane, such as how to integrate AWS with Salesforce with a few clicks, to the more interesting, such as how to build a cat breed recognition app using Salesforce's Einstein Vision technology. I think that's pretty cool. If the abundance of choice is too much for you, Salesforce has also curated guides of projects called trail mixes. I have an example there on the slide for build your developer career on Salesforce. So if you haven't used Trailhead yet and are wondering whether or not Salesforce is right for you, go on to Trailhead right now and just start playing around for free. Next slide, please, Alice. So Xero is growing very quickly. We have an immense need to scale our systems. With this much growth, the systems that we built even a few years ago need to be redesigned and rebuilt for scale. So the key takeaway from all of this, if you remember just one thing from this entire presentation, Salesforce is a great technology and Xero is a great company to build a career with it. The skills that you have today will evolve and change as the business continues to evolve and change. With 2.2 million subscribers at the end of 2020, we are tackling the challenge of handling all of that data, and we use Salesforce to get a 360-degree view of each and every one of those subscribers. Next slide, please. So we leverage a lot of Salesforce technologies to get this comprehensive view of our subscribers. So again, as far as how we're organized into 3 teams. There's sales and marketing, there's customer success systems, and platform. And we each have our own Salesforce technologies that we are responsible for. So Sales Cloud is the engine that powers the growth that Xero has seen over the last few years. Every customer, every potential deal, every dollar of revenue is driven through Sales Cloud. Marketing Cloud is how we reach out to millions of people while providing them with a custom tailored journey based on their experience with Xero. It's a mass automation and customization tool to ensure that the right person gets the right content at the right time. The Customer Success System team supports the customer support, content, and learning functions of Xero, and they use Service Cloud and Experience Cloud to do this. With Service Cloud, it enables the support agents to quickly respond to customer requests by leveraging that 360-degree view of the customer so that we can serve relevant, helpful content to augment their cases on an agent console while providing a workflow to support their process. Experience Cloud, we've built a website called Xero Central, and that is our customer-facing site that empowers millions of Xero's customers to find answers, engage in discussions with other customers, and to further their knowledge of Xero's products by embarking on learning pathways in order for them to self-serve, while also giving them a method to actually get in touch with our support specialists if needed. So that's super cool. Next slide, please. So there's a lot of growth that we're talking about here. And Salesforce has grown so quickly because of its suite of declarative tools that make the traditionally complex relatively simple. When working with Salesforce at Xero, we emphasize clicks before code. Now, you may be wondering, whoa. I just spent 4 years learning how to code. What's this all about? The reason why we emphasize clicks before code is to accelerate our development velocity. I'll give you a short story to explain what this means in practice. At my prior company, we purchased an expense reporting application from a top software vendor. When we actually got access to the software, what they had said during the sales cycle would work out of the box really didn't work at all. They quoted us a time frame of 4 to 6 months to get the system up and running. That was painful for our users to hear. It was a huge blow because they had expected this to be working now, out of the box. So what did we do? Well, using Salesforce, we reverse engineered their application and had it deployed to our users in 2 weeks. We saved our company over $100,000, but more importantly, for a company that's growing so quickly like Xero, we saved our most valuable resource, our time. And that's the power of clicks before code with Salesforce. You can operate so much faster than you would have to if you just had to rely on code. That being said, you can't do everything with clicks, and Xero systems are heavily customized. This means we have a huge need for developers who know how to code. Here's Hayden to discuss more of what it's like to code with Salesforce at Xero.
Cool, thanks, Carrie. I might just share my screen now. One moment. We can all see my screen? Yep, cool. All right, so hello, potential future Xeros. I'm Hayden, and I'm a technical lead here at Xero. I lead a small team of developers, and we build really cool stuff on Salesforce, both for our internal other Xero employees, but also for external customers. So we've just heard from Carrie that we can configure functionality on Salesforce using clicks, and I'm here to talk about the coding side of stuff. So when you can't do something with config, we need to build and write code to do that sort of thing. So that's what I'm going to talk about. And then I will also do a live coding session where we make a simple change to an existing app, and I can teach you a little bit about the software design patterns that are used by Salesforce, so you can put it into context. So, classic image. The idea behind this image is that users only see the front end, but there's a huge amount that goes on behind the scenes which makes the front end possible. So we're really lucky in Salesforce because we work with a platform that's got a limited scope. Most of our developers get to work on both the front end and the back end, which is comparable to, say, a full stack developer position in a traditional software engineering or developer career. We can do that because we have the Salesforce platform as well as Salesforce frameworks and libraries, which do a bunch of heavy lifting for us, making it really easy to develop on the platform. In saying that, in my team in particular, we do have front-end specialists for our external apps that our customers see, because that needs to be extra polished. We don't want our customers seeing anything less than #beautiful. I'm going to talk a little bit now about back-end development and a little more in depth. And so I want to talk about what backend is. The first thing you'll probably see is a picture of a cat. This is actually Carrie's cat. He was kind enough to let me use it for the slide, dressed up as in a tie, a business cat, if you will, which is fitting for this slide because the backend is all about the business logic and integration. And the business logic performs a bunch of really valuable things behind the scenes for our customers, and then most of the time we'll save that the result of the business logic as data to a database. So in my team, an example of where we might write some code which does something in the back end is when our customers want help on how to use Xero, and they can't find it anywhere. So what they might do is they might go to the help site. They'll raise a support case with us. That's using, they'll raise the support case on the front end, but then the back end process would be, we read the contents of their case. We use machine learning to categorize, okay, what type of question is this person asking? And then routing that case to a support agent that might have the relevant skills in answering a question like that. The backend also exposes data to the front end so that our front end developers can get the data they need when they are building their user interfaces. And there are a bunch of really good reasons for separating the back end from the front end, including things like performance, security, and just generally being able to access your data from any internet connected device. So at Xero, we use a programming language within Salesforce called Apex. So most people in software development have probably heard of Java or C# or Python or similar. Well, Apex is the Salesforce equivalent of that. It's our back-end server-side language, which is used to do all of that business logic stuff we talked about in the last slide. So if you have worked with Java before, then you could pick up Apex pretty quickly. At the moment, we exclusively use Apex, but Salesforce recently expanded the potential languages that can be used on the platform to also include Java and Node.js with their new Salesforce Functions product. In terms of a database, there's a single well-integrated database that's directly accessible through Apex using the Salesforce Object Query language. It's pretty much SQL if you've ever worked with SQL or SQL. We also have CI/CD, which makes coding on the platform really fast and efficient. And then the last bullet point there that I want to talk about is the Salesforce Lightning platform. And all of the back end and the front end is basically runs on the Salesforce Lightning platform. It's the thing that makes it all possible. I guess in some ways it's equivalent to something like using AWS to host your apps, except you don't have to do much because Salesforce does most of it for you automatically. So what I mean by it does most of it for you automatically? Well, we're getting into the whole infrastructure as a service versus platform as a service versus software as a service discussion here. So AWS is primarily infrastructure as a service, and that means all of these white boxes are things that you have to take care of yourself, and the vendor, like Amazon, will take care of the stuff in the green boxes. So if you're running on AWS, you have to worry about the runtime environment, the middleware, and also the operating system. Whereas on Salesforce, it's both platform as a service and software as a service, which means at the most, you only have to worry about these white boxes here. You don't have to worry about the runtime, the middleware, and the operating system. Salesforce handles that for us automatically, which means we can focus on, in my view, the fun stuff, which is building the actual application itself, focusing on writing the apps rather than managing all of the infrastructure as well. So I'll go on to talking a little bit about front end now. Front end is basically anything that happens in the browser. It's the user-facing code and also the overall user experience. It's the thing that our users see and interact with directly when they visit a website or an application. So Salesforce uses industry standard languages like JavaScript, HTML, and CSS for their front end stack, which means if you already know these things, you're most of the way there to learning to write Salesforce front-end code. Salesforce do have their own front-end frameworks. So instead of something like Angular or React, but I guess React's more like a library, but yeah, anyway, we have the Lightning Web Components and the Aura framework. Lightning Web Components can be described as being 90% web components, which are a web industry standard, with a thin layer over the top to do some very specific Salesforce-y things, like access to data without using server-side language as well. We also use a library called Xero on our external-facing apps hosted on Salesforce. And Xero stands for Xero User Interface. It's a component library that we build here at Xero. So think things like buttons, modals, input checkboxes, and things like that. It's a standard library that we can use. Because you can imagine, without a component library, we might have 10 developers all making 10 different buttons. And each time a developer wants a button, they might reinvent the wheel and spend time figuring out how to make their button look and feel similar, which we don't want. So we want to standardize all of that. And then lastly, just quickly talk about accessibility as well. So accessibility is answering the question, how can we make our applications and our websites available to as many people as possible in all sorts of different contexts and abilities. And on our external-facing websites, we're going through a big push at the moment to make sure everything is accessible. I wanted to also talk about why Salesforce coding in particular. And I think Raksha already talked about this, but I'll just go over it again. There's a massive skills shortage in this space at the moment. And so when you come to work, generally you feel pretty important because people genuinely need you. And we do get to work on stuff that makes a real difference to people's lives as well. So imagine you're a small business in New Zealand or around the world, something like a bakery, and the owners of that bakery might use Xero to automate their accounting. For some customers, the ability to automate their accounting can mean the difference between having to work on the weekend or spending that time with their family. And we in the Salesforce team, we contribute to things like helping them spend more time with their family through the code that we write. And also, because there aren't as many people doing Salesforce as other areas like AWS or .NET and C#, it's really hard to find people that already know Salesforce, which is great for you because the expectation is that you won't already know everything there is to know about Salesforce, and you will instead start from scratch and learn pretty much everything you need to know on the job. It's just more important that you can think like an engineer and learn. Those are the sorts of people we're looking for. Okay, on to the fun part. I'm going to do a live coding session, and I've got a fingers crossed emoji here because you know what live demos are like, something always goes wrong. So I'm going to show an app today called Dreamhouse, and it's an application that lets you see houses for sale in your area, built on Salesforce. I could make a joke here around it's not called Dreamhouse because it helps you find your dream house, but because owning a house is now a dream. But yeah, not really. Anyway, I wish I could show you our actual Xero code, but that's a really bad idea from a security perspective. So I'll just stick with the demo app for now. Cool. So this is the application here, and it's a pretty simple app. We've got a page, and you can search for houses, which appear here as tiles. And when you click on one of these tiles, it brings up some more information about the house and a map with a pin showing where the house is located. So this page is made up of custom-built Lightning web components. So each of these main sections, like this one here, this filter property, this middle bit showing all the tiles of the houses, this component here and this component here, they're all separate UI components, and they're all built on using JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So we can see these components by editing the page. And you can see when I hover over these components, a blue box appears around the outside. That's just to show that each is a separate component. And when you build components on Salesforce, they will appear on this left-hand sidebar here, and you can actually drag them onto the page here and add them. So that's what we mean by clicks. That would be an example of clicks. But then the actual Lightning web component itself, the thing that's displaying in here, that's actually code written by a developer. So we don't actually want that on the page, so I'll just delete that. And we'll go back to the main page. Before I get into the code for this, I wanted to quickly run through the software design pattern that Lightning web components follow. And so if you've heard of the MVC model before, then Lightning web components follow a similar pattern, but it has an extra controller on the client side written in JavaScript. So M is for model, and our model is really the business model. You know, how you model the domain that you're working in, and also you also have access to the database in this layer within a Salesforce context. We also have the controller, which is written in Apex. That's that server-side language again that I was mentioning before. And so the Apex controller will talk to the database to get data, and then it will pass it back to the browser, where the JavaScript controller will then take that data and put it into the view, which is the HTML and markup for display. So we're going to make a really simple change. On the app, we had those tiles, and it showed the location, how many bedrooms the house had, and how many bathrooms it had as well. I'm going to add in, it would be really nice to see the asking price as well at a glance, so that we don't have to actually click the tile and see that information on the right. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to modify these components, which I've added in blue, which are the actual underlying code components. So we've got a property controller written in Apex. It's a class. We have a property database table, which has a price column in it. And what we want to do is we want to retrieve the price in the property controller on the server. We want to return that to the browser, and then have the browser add that information, add that data to the view, which is our actual HTML page. So if I open up Visual Studio Code, which is the IDE we use here at Xero, to write our code in Salesforce, then I've opened up the property controller class, which is Apex on the server side, and it has a method called getPagedPropertyList. So when this page loads, this UI component in the middle calls that Apex controller, which then calls the database for the information, and the controller then returns that information to the page here. So the first thing we want to do is add the price field, the price information, to the Apex controller. So this method gets called, and in this method we have a SQL query. Remember, that's like SQL. Very similar syntax, where it selects the columns of the database that we want to retrieve from the property table, and then returns that. So if we want to add price, it's as easy as including that information in the query. Added price, and I want to deploy this Apex controller to Salesforce, which is happening now. So that's done. If we go back to the page and refresh it, we see that the price doesn't show up here, and that's because we still haven't added it to the HTML yet, but it is retrieving that information and returning it to the front end. We're just not displaying it yet. So that's the next thing that we'll do. So we have a Lightning Web component called property tile list. And within this component, this basically creates a bunch of other components called property tiles. So if you can imagine, when we're looking at this component here, that's one Lightning Web component. And that Lightning Web component is responsible for generating every single one of these tiles. And each one of these tiles is its own Lightning Web component as well. So you can see that through these this template markup. For each of the records, create a property tile. And this is some magic that the Salesforce Lightning framework handles for us. So we actually don't need to know how that works under the hood. We just need to know that it does. And then if we open the property tile itself, we can see that this is a really simple component. This is those tiles that I was showing you. It's got an anchor tag, which when clicked has a JavaScript function that essentially sends out an event so that other components on the page can listen for that event and react to it. It's got a div, which adds in a background image, which is a picture of the house. And then we've got the data associated with the tile. And in this case, it's currently the city, the number of beds, and the number of baths. So let's add in the price information as well. Now I'm going to cheat here. I already wrote this code before. I'm just going to copy and paste it in because you don't want to see me typing that. And I'll walk you through it. I'm adding another paragraph in here so that we get it on a new line. And we're using a Lightning base component. So this is a Lightning component, another Lightning Web component that has been automatically built for us by Salesforce in their own component library. And it's called Lightning Formatted Number. And it essentially allows you to pass in a number and format it however you like, whether that's a currency or a decimal point or some other number. So I've formatted it as a currency in New Zealand dollars, and then we pass in property.price, and that price information has come from us adding the price field to the query that we did in the Apex controller. So let's save that, deploy this to Salesforce. And then that should be done. Yep, all successful. So now when we go back to this page, we can see Boston, beds 3, baths 1. If I refresh the page, we should see, yay, we've got the price now as well on each of the tiles. So that's that. I know that was a simple change, but let me just stop sharing my screen. So I know that was a simple change, but I hope it was enough to show you something we do all the time here at Xero in the Salesforce team, which is to add to and contribute to an existing code base. We also build brand new things from scratch as well, but showing that takes a lot more time than the 15 minutes I have to give you a demo here. If you are keen to learn more about what I've just showed you or build apps from scratch on Salesforce, then like Carrie said, Trailhead is the place to go. Just like the app that I showed you, Salesforce provide your own version of that for free, where you can actually go in and practice building these apps. So if you do that and you nail that stuff, then when you join us, you'll be able to add value immediately, which would be awesome. So that's all from me. I think I'll hand back to Alice now.
Yeah.
And
Thanks,
cheers.
Hayden. Yeah, it's such a shame that it's online, really, because I'm sure if you'd done that in front of a room of people, we'd all be applauding at the end. I know how much of a relief it is when live coding goes smoothly. So yeah, that was awesome. And also for me, you know, I'm not in the Salesforce team, so I'm learning quite a lot as well from watching you do that too. Cool. Okay, well, now we have a solid half an hour, which is awesome, to go through some of your burning questions. I know quite a few of you have been posting them. I think the first one I'll go to is from Lisa, which I'd love to ask Hayden, actually. So Lisa's question is it essential to have advanced coding skills, or is basic fine? Or could you be more so a functional Salesforce consultant? I know you've kind of just been talking about this, but if you could maybe expand on it a little bit more for Lisa and a few others who've upvoted that question.
Yeah, sure. So we've got two primary, well, we've got three, but I'm gonna simplify it. We've got two primary roles here at Xero in the Salesforce team, which are our functional consultants and also our technical consultants, our developers. And functional consultants are the ones that work on all the configuration changes. Like when I dragged that component onto the page as part of the demo, that's something that our functional consultants might do. In terms of our particular implementation, it's very code heavy. So we are really looking for people, my understanding of this role is somebody that is more code focused, but it's fine if you only have a basic understanding of code at the moment. It's more important that you can think like an engineer and you have a desire to learn, and we can help teach you the rest. So basic coding skills is absolutely fine for this role. I actually started, I did an information systems degree at Vic Uni, which had like 2 or 3 coding papers in it, versus, you know, somebody that might have done computer science or software engineering at uni. So yeah, don't let that stop you from applying.
Yeah, thanks, Hayden. And just to kind of add to that as well, I mentioned in the slide about the application process that you'll be sent a Hackerrank test. If you're not familiar with Hackerrank, it's really easy to check it out. If you just go to hackerrank.com, it's not a Xero-owned platform. It's a separate testing platform. So you can go and do some sort of pretend tests. It's language agnostic, but essentially the test that we would be sending you is for a graduate engineer. And what we're looking for is we're looking for a few questions for you to answer around front end, a few around back end, but we're not looking for a perfect score at all. It's literally for us to just have an idea of where you're at the moment. And like Hayden said, if there are things that you need to upskill in, the grad year is the perfect year to do it. The amount of delivery that we expect of grads is much lower than the amount of learning we expect of grads. So as long as you can show in your application that you are curious and that you have learning agility, and that might be through your transcripts, it might be through a GitHub profile, it might be some other way that you might have some passion projects, for example, where you're practicing different coding languages or tech stack. So show us in whatever way you can that you love learning and that you're open to to learning lots of different things, because that's really the core aim of the first year with us, when you're on the grad program and you're going through different teams and learning different things. Cool, thanks so much. The top question here is, how many Salesforce grad vacancies do you have? Which I feel like I'm the one to answer this. I did mention this, but very quickly, so lots of people might have missed it earlier on in the presentation or might have joined after I mentioned it. There are two positions available this year for the graduate role. In terms of internships, there aren't any Salesforce specific ones this year. However, we do have plenty of internships available in other areas. So if you are interested in doing an internship with us, for example, if you're not in your final year of uni and you still have a summer to do an internship left, then sign up to Summer of Tech. Even if you don't end up getting an internship with Xero, it's a fantastic platform to find yourself an internship with a tech company in New Zealand. So over the course of the year as well, in the run up to the actual hiring, which happens in sort of August, September kind of time, they do heaps of workshops and boot camps and CV workshops as well. So join it and find out everything you can, learn as much as you can, and it's a really great place to find an awesome summer job. So I think that answers two questions that I got, one about Salesforce grad roles and one about Summer of Tech. And someone else has asked, just to add on to that, would it be possible to join Xero's Salesforce program as a summer intern at the end of this year? Unfortunately, not this year. That may well happen in the future. So keep your eyes peeled if you're interested in that, maybe next year. But this year, unfortunately, that's not the case. I've got a question here from Nash, which is, how fresh out of university do you need to be? By the time February 2022 rolls around, graduates from December 2020 will have over a year's professional experience. Is this okay? So I'll answer this, but I'll also see who else from the Salesforce team has an idea of or what their opinion is on this. But in my opinion, the graduate program at Xero is quite unusual because we actually take people from all different walks of life. It's called graduate, but you don't necessarily have to be coming from an undergraduate degree. That's just where where most of our applicants and new starters come from. We've had people who are self-taught coders who've done it in their own time and have applied, and they've got around a year or less than a year's experience in that discipline when they've applied, but they might have had 8 years in another career. We've had people do a sort of a dev academy or a coding academy for a few months, like a crash course kind of thing, and then join us, and they might have had 6 to 12 months working somewhere else. I would say that when you're applying, if you do decide to apply, as long as you've got less than a year's experience in the coding sort of tech space when you apply, that's absolutely fine. We appreciate that we are still quite a few months out from February 2022. So by the time that comes around, if you've got slightly more than 1 year, it's not the end of the world. So yeah, if in doubt, apply, and we'll let you know either way. But that sounds absolutely fine to me, Nash. But Raksha, did you have an opinion on this as well? I can see you nodding your head.
Yeah, no, I agreed with everything you said. At the end of the day, it does come down to the right candidate, and we will consider all walks of life, as you said.
Yeah, awesome. And also, if you're not studying at university right now, coding, comp sci, any of that kind of what would be seen as like an obvious route to this kind of role, that's also fine, as long as you're showing in your application that you are learning how to code somewhere outside of that environment. We had someone this year join the grad program who had just finished their law degree, casual, just do a cheeky law degree, and then changed their mind and taught themselves to code in their spare time in the 6 months before they applied, or sort of 3 to 6 months. And we also have someone else on the grad program who studied humanities, so was studying like history and politics and that kind of thing, and then also was learning by themselves how to code in their spare time. So we've got quite a few different types of people joining us. Thanks for that question, Nash. We have another one from Nash, actually. What's the best way to showcase work or learning we may have gained from working with a company? It's not always possible to share that code on GitHub for security reasons. I think this is a really great question. Again, I have my opinion, but I'm keen to hear others from the team who might have other ideas as well. If applicants ask me this question, what I tend to tell them is if you can't put it on a public page for us to see, that's not a problem. We totally understand. If you're able to set up a private link or some kind of link that sends us to examples of work that you've done, that's great. Or it could even be showing us like a downloadable PDF version or screenshots of work that you've done. Whatever is possible, considering how, it depends on how sensitive that code base is, obviously. But Vivek, did you have any ideas about how students could show their working if it's slightly sensitive?
Yeah, for example, what I have done was like I have emailed personally, like what you said, the private links, right? Private links, screenshot, and code samples as well. So not necessarily it has to be public.
Cool. I hope that answers your question, Nash. If we're answering your questions and you feel like we haven't fully answered them, by the way, feel free to unmute or ask another follow-up question in the Q&A chat box. That's absolutely fine.
Hi, Alice. I would like to add a few more
Go for
points
it.
into that. So, hi, I'm Aparna. So, in my previous work, when we actually have interaction with grads, I have some like really cool examples of like how they dealt with this particular situation. One was actually PDF, as you suggested. The second thing was actually setting up the email, and the third one actually surprised me most was actually some of them actually managed to set up mimic the application, but not with exact code base, but like a very similar application. They set it on their own private space. They set up like a mini version of it, and not the business logic from the original company was not used. The code base was not used. But again, what they learn out of that experience, that coding techniques or the practices, they actually introduce that, and they manage to perform well in those kind of interviews as well, because they own it, they know what they did. So yeah, that's the way of like, setting it, like doing a mini project of what you did, but without compromising any security or business logic.
That's a really cool idea. Thanks for that.
Yeah, minimum viable products, that's what it is.
Cool. I've had a question here around asking for a bit more detail on the grad day that I mentioned and how the day's structured, what gets assessed, and how to better prepare for this day. Thank you, Ali, for that question. The quick answer to this question is we are still figuring that out because this is a new grad role. The way that we do it for pretty much all the other roles on our technical graduate program is there are 3 elements to a graduate day. So bear in mind this might change for Salesforce, and if it does, we will be sure to give you plenty of notice and we'll give you the ability to prepare for this kind of day. But what we generally do for the other engineers that we hire is we ask them to come along prepared for a technical skills interview. And what that normally is the applicant comes to the day, and it's normally hosted virtually, so with a demo. So they can share their screen, for example, and show the interviewers a project that they've worked on, and they can do a live demo if they're really confident. Someone last year did do that, and apparently it went pretty smoothly, but depends on what your comfort level is. But basically, you come along with a project that you've worked on, and you talk the interviewers through that project, and they've got some questions that they ask you, technical questions around the project. So that would be something that if you're invited to the grad day, we'll give you plenty of detail around it and how to prepare and what to bring, how to show it, that kind of thing. So that's the technical skills interview. The second style of interview that we would have you do is a soft skills interview, where you don't really need to prepare for this because it's us trying to understand who you as a human are a little bit better. So the only way really to prepare for that is thinking of examples or stories that kind of align with our Xero values. So if you're not familiar with those, go to Xero.com, and it's on our landing page, our 5 values, and they kind of revolve around how we work here at Xero. So just have a think about how you truly relate to those, and some examples of where you've shown that you're #human, challenged something, for example, or worked in a team, which is another one of our values. So the way to prepare for that interview is really just to kind of sit back and have a think about what you've done, whether it's university, work experience, in real life, so come to that interview with a few stories in mind to talk us through. And that's really just to understand who you are. The third and final one, and they're not necessarily in this order, you might start with the one which I'm about to mention and finish with the technical skills. It really depends. But the third one is called Research and Present. And that is basically, we give you a topic, a random topic. I mean, we've thought about it in advance, but to you it's random, to go away and research for about 15 minutes. And then you come back to the meeting and you present on that topic that we've asked you to go away and research. And you just present for 2 minutes. You don't need to make slides or anything like that. You just tell us everything you've just learned in that 15 minutes about that topic. And it's normally a technical topic that we ask you to go away and research. I would give you an example, but I can't think of anything but the examples that I think we're going to be using for this year. So I better not divulge too much. But it might be something around, I don't know, your opinion about a certain coding language, or it might be about something to do with AWS, for example. And you come back and you present it to the interviewers for a couple of minutes, and then they ask a couple of follow-up questions once you've presented. And that's it. At the end of the day, we all thank you for your time, and we give you feedback normally within 24 to 48 hours around whether or not we will be progressing with an offer of employment. So we try and make it nice and swift so that you're not left waiting around for a long time. And if you're not successful as well, just know that you would be given a call if you've reached that final stage. So I call absolutely everyone who's come to that grad day to tell them whether they'll be offered or not. And if you're not offered, I would do my best to give you some helpful feedback, because I know that many of you are in the middle of lots of interviews at that time of year with lots of different companies. So we try and give you some helpful advice for those future interviews that you have. So I hope that sheds a bit of light on the grad day. But yeah, like I say, if you are invited to the grad day, I send through literally like a PDF where it says, here's what the day will consist of, here's what you can do to prepare for any or all of these sessions. But it might be ever so slightly different for the Salesforce team. We're just in the middle of sorting all of that out at the moment. Cool. I'm just seeing what else we have not answered. Feel free to, by the way, unmute yourself if you wanted to ask a question directly to anyone from the Salesforce team. That's absolutely fine. I've got one here which is asking about engineering hours, engineering student working hours. This is from you. It says, can engineering students apply to the grad program without completing 800 hours of engineering work experience? And then they explain it. Engineering students cannot graduate without completing 800 hours of engineering work experience, but they can still finish the course. This isn't a question that I've actually been asked before, so I would have to check this. I would imagine that you would need to complete those hours in order for you to graduate and finish the course. But like I said earlier, this is a graduate program where you don't necessarily have to have a degree, so that may not be the case. What I might need to do is ask about that to find out if that's a prerequisite, you know, a requirement. But I don't imagine it is. I think we would be pretty flexible on that if you're a few hours short. I know that has been quite tricky to get all of those hours, especially last summer. Like, for example, Xero, we had an extra week of festive shutdown. So some interns really struggled to get the full 400 hours of work, depending on when their exam dates were and things like that. So I think we'd be pretty flexible on that, but I can check that for you. Okay. I believe that we have answered all of the questions that have been asked. So I guess I'll throw this back out to the Salesforce team. Was there anything else that you wanted to add, or any questions maybe that you might have to those on the call listening in today?
Who's excited to build cool stuff?
Yeah.
No one.
No one.
Cool.
No, I'm sure they are.
Is there anything that you guys wanted to hear more about that we might not have covered fully?
Thank you, Nash. Nash is excited. There you go.
Oh.
Listen, if we don't have lots and lots of burning questions all the way up to 1:30, that is not a problem. I appreciate that it's lunchtime, so many people are probably just getting a bit peckish now. Thank you, Ali. Okay, great. Well, listen, I think we'll wrap it up here. Thank you so much for giving us your time this lunchtime to listen in and hear about what we have to offer in the awesome Salesforce team. We're really excited to have graduates, wow, I can't speak anymore, graduates officially joining the program this year. So if you are interested in applying, just a reminder, applications close on the 14th of May. So make sure you get your application in soon. And if you are coming on campus, I'll be in Auckland at the Expos tomorrow and the next day. I'll be in Vic Uni next week, UC towards the end of the week, and Dunedin at Otago Polytechnic and Otago Uni the week after that. So hopefully see you on campus as well. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Speak soon.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.